Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to talk. Actually, I'm going to give a content warning on this. Um, what I'm about to say is very countercultural, and I think will upset quite a few people. And so I'm going to talk about mental health. I'm going to talk about tabletop role-playing games, and I'm going to talk about the death of a celebrity and someone sharing their tale about the death of a celebrity. And I think this could be upsetting for some people. So I just, so there's a million great, videos right here. You don't need to watch this if any of those is going to be upsetting for you. So just giving a content warning before I go forward. Okay. All right, here we go. Also, I'll say this at the beginning. Every single word that you're going to hear in this video is my humble opinion. Absolutely nothing more and absolutely nothing less. And just wanted to put that into here from the outtake. Okay. All right, let's talk about this. So today what I want to talk about is Benny from Comicstorian, Rob from Comics Explained, mental health, and how Rob from Comics Explained discussing the death of Benny from Comicstorian, I think he very clearly indicated that a year ago he went to a therapist to get help for processing the death of Benny from Comicstorian. And I think if you listen to his video, it's extremely clear he would have been far better off getting a game master than a therapist. All right, so, and I'm gonna construct why that is my opinion, and I'm gonna share why that is my opinion. All right, kind of build up why I believe that. All right, here we go. So first of all, I want to say thank you to Rob from Comics Explained for sharing his tale about about his experience of the death of Ben from Comic Story. Okay. By the way, if you don't know who these two gentlemen is, don't listen to another word of this video. Just jump right out and go somewhere else. Seriously, if you don't care about either one of these guys, nothing here has anything to do with you. If you know Benny from Comic Story, if you know Rob from Comics Explained, I think this is very important. This is an important discussion. If you don't, this isn't for you. All right, let's keep going. Okay, yeah, and yeah, all right, here we go. Okay. All right, so Ben from Comicstorian dies, okay? And at that point, and Rob from Comics Explained just shared his experience of Ben from Comicstorian's death, okay? And that was a year ago. He's been dealing with that death for a year. A year ago, he already had a therapist, okay, and he was going to his therapist to discuss and used his therapist to help process Ben from Comicstorian's death, okay, and she gave him some specific advice, or I'm not sure if his therapist is a man or woman. His therapist gave him some advice for processing this, right? And now it's a year later. Okay, now this gets wild. Listen to this. All right. So so before I tell you what the effects of Ben from Comicstorian's what the effects of Ben from Comicstorian's from the therapist helping him Ben from Comicstorian with that issue. Let me explain this. Okay. So first of all, I think this is a template event. I think this explains a much larger picture than just Rob and Benny. Okay, I think yeah. So Rob from Comics Explained has money, right? And we know this because I'm not saying he's a millionaire, but I do think he's a millionaire. I think he's a, I think he's a 7-figure millionaire, not 8, right? Like 1 to 9 million, I would guess. And the reason why is from his YouTube channel. Okay, his YouTube channel is he's got literally millions of subscribers, and he does extremely well, right? He does well. Okay, so he has money, right? And I think just the indication that he already had a therapist is a significant piece of information that he does well, because generally good therapists are like $200 to $600 now. Like, they're not cheap, right? And okay, so he has the money to go to a therapist. So money is not an issue. He has access to a therapist, right? So let's put that on a shelf. Let's understand that, okay? Second, he doesn't just have access to regular therapists. He's in Hollywood. He's in Los Angeles, right? The best therapists in the world are in Hollywood. Why? Well, Hollywood is a verdant, rich soil for therapists. Tons of people who have money, who have significant mental health issues, and and that is the perfect soil to get the best therapists in the world. Oh, and no other community in the world has more goodwill for therapists than Hollywood. Like, they use them more than anyone else, right? So lots of people with major mental health issues, lots of people with lots of money, right? And lots of people with goodwill for therapists, right? So Benny had access to therapists, right? And not just regular therapists, the best therapists in the world, right? So I think that's good evidence that his therapist is a good therapist, okay? A good therapist. I want that to be really clear. I think Benny's therapist is a good therapist, okay? Now, all right, so we understand all of that. Now, let's move forward. Here we go. You ready? Okay. This gets really wild. This really kind of blew me away to just understand this, right? So what did Benny say? Okay. So he tells a story about him experiencing Benny from Comic Historian's death. Okay. Then he says at the end of this, now, today, okay? Like, he said, I'm not okay. Not in any way, not by any standard of measurement, right? He said, I am experiencing insane levels of anxiety and borderline depression. Now, this is after a year of having full access to a therapist, and not just a regular therapist, a really good one, okay? So a year after being under treatment, right, he's saying, I'm not okay, not by any standard of measurement, okay? I've been dealing with insane levels of anxiety and borderline depression. That is astonishing, right? And so then my question is, so that therapist brought all the tools, and to me, it did not help. I think if you listen to Rob's explanation, he got nothing from going to that therapist. Nothing. Okay. So if that's the case, what could he have done? All right? And here's my supposition. I think he would have been far better off going to a game master, okay? So go to a game master, all right, and who is aware of tabletop role-playing games, aware of how they impact narrative and identity, and aware of life modeling with tabletop role-playing games, right? And so he could have just went and got a game master and said, and apprised the game master of the situation. And then the game master could have done this. They could have said, okay, all right, we're going to sit down, and everything I'm about to say that the game master would say, Benny actually discussed this in his video, okay? And so you'll hear it now as a story, and I'll kind of summarize it. So the game master could, understanding Benny's situation, could have said, okay, thanks for coming here today. You have your tabletop role-playing game book, you have your character sheet, you have your dice. I'm prepared to begin playing this tabletop role-playing game with you, and we're going to do some life modeling, right? So the story is, we're starting the story that morning when you had breakfast, and this is from Rob's story, when you had breakfast with Benny, right? And you and Benny's like, I need to get a blueberry pancake to take home, right? And then they didn't bring it for him, so you asked the waiter to get the blueberry pancake out, right? And then he brought the blueberry pancake, and then you guys said goodbye, and then Benny left, and then you didn't see Benny for hours, and then Benny's wife called you on the phone, okay? And then when Benny's wife couldn't find him, and when he wasn't responding any of your texts, and when his coworker couldn't find him, you immediately began searching for him, and you found him. You found him on the side of the road, surrounded by police officers in his wrecked vehicle, right? And now all of that happened. That's all from Rob's video, okay? So all of that happened, and that's all from Rob's video, okay? The Game Master would start the session with simply recreating the scene from the Benny's death. Then what the Game Master could have done is said, okay, now all of this never happened, right? But we're going to life model it right now using this tabletop role-playing game. So when you arrive, actually, we're going to back it up. You arrive before the police are there. Now, this is different, right? So the life modeling would change the situation, right? So you arrive before the police are there, and Benny's car is rolled. You're the first on the scene. You rush out of your car. You run to Benny. Benny has been badly damaged in the car crash, right? But he's still alive, but he's bleeding out. And you realize you have about 2 minutes max, maybe 3, okay? You immediately call 911, and they're on the way, right? But you don't think Benny's going to make it, right? And then Benny grabs your hand, and he says, 911, he's like, they're not going to get here, but I need to say something to you, Rob. Rob, thank you for finding me. You came and you searched me. Rob, thank you for being here. Benny clutches Rob's hand. I need you to know that you were the best friend I ever had. And I need you to know I couldn't have done what I did without seeing you do the same thing in a different way. And just knowing that I wasn't alone in what I did was important. Rob, I love you, and I'm really glad you're here in this moment, and I need you to help me pass peacefully. And then, at that point, Rob, at the table, with his tabletop role-playing game book, with his player character sheet, with the math rocks, he has a moment where he has 1 minute of time at this table, but going back in time. And he has a moment to talk to Benny and say something to Benny. And I think that's real and that's important. And I think that would have been 100 times more effective than anything that therapist did for him, which appears, in my opinion, to be nothing. And it's not because that therapist wasn't good. They used the discipline. They brought all the tools, and it did nothing, right? It's not the issue with the therapist. It's the issue of therapy at the large bracket, right? He had access to the best. He had full access for a year. If you listen to his words, it's hard to imagine how it could possibly have done anything, how it helped in any way. But a game master could have helped. And not just in the way that I just said, but in probably 10 other significant ways, right? And I think if you watch Rob from Comics Explains description of his experience of Benny from Comic Storian's death and what a therapist accomplished, it's extremely clear, in my humble opinion, that he would have been far better off with a game master. A game master could have done something real, and that today he wouldn't be saying, I'm not okay in any way, not by any standard of measure, and saying I'm suffering from insane levels of anxiety and borderline depression. I think he could have gotten real help from a game master. Let me reiterate. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic. Please consider like, subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.